if you work in inside sales and you're reaching out to people, what you're really doing is you're going up against the marketing machine. Like you're John Henry against, I think it was the steam engine. Is that what it was?
I think it was.
Yeah, my tall tale stories are a little rusty. Sorry, but what you're basically doing is you're going up against the machine, and you have a chance to beat the machine and try a lot of different little iterations and fail and fail and fail and succeed. And you try little things, and it ends up working out. And the cool part is there's no reason that you can't wear marketing goggles when you do prospecting.
Totally. So I want to, before we kind of get into your approach, which is super unique and interesting, I want to talk a little bit about the problem out there today with these 7-8 touch, sort of automated email sequences. And what I want to do is I want to actually read you an email that a friend of mine just forwarded today. I'm going to read you the email that the SDR sent.
Okay.
And then I'm going to read you his response to me that the SDR never heard, which I think happens a lot. So this is his email.
Okay.
Hey, Jason, I realize this is the 4th time I've emailed you, so I'm assuming this isn't a priority for you right now at the moment. I'll leave it alone for a couple months, and then I'll check back to see how things are going. If you'd be interested in outsourcing your podcast production or promotion, I'm here. Just let me know. Happy to discuss anytime. And he forwarded that to me along with his comment, which was the following. I hate these passive-aggressive shaming emails. What a terrible practice. 4th email and you haven't responded, so effing leave me alone. And I kind of wanted to get your perspective because I think this is sort of the norm now in prospecting. Systems like Outreach and SalesLoft make it real easy for people to send 7 or 8 touches. And just wanted you to speak to a little bit of the problem you're seeing out there with these tools and this type of approach.
Yeah, it's actually funny that you bring that up. We have a SalesLoft rep working in our office today with us. But the interesting thing about all these tools is that I think when they first came out, everyone was like, oh, great, I'm going to be able to optimize my sales process, be more productive, get things going. And what's actually happening is there's this trend where people, instead of using these tools the way they were built to make you more productive and allow you to sell more and be more thoughtful with your outreach, are using it to send more emails and do more calls. And what it's ultimately doing is it's ruining sales emails for normal people, the normal people that want to do it. So like when you send a bad email like that one that you just read, it's training the prospect to not respect or look at sales emails anymore. And I see it all the time. I'm in the meta of selling, so I'm always looking at my prospect emails. I get prospect emails all the time. We'll probably get some while we're on this podcast recording. The thing that bugs me about it is you have to be able to go and research your prospect. You have a chance to make the prospect feel good. If we could take prospecting and completely nuke it, like just control whatever the keyboard shortcut is to make a new document and make it a blank slate, and we did it today, we'd probably get back to falling into old habits. And it doesn't have to be like that. This person's doing a gimmick to try and get your friend Jason to reply. Like that's what they're doing. They're trying to use guilt-based prospecting to do that. Guilt is okay, but guilt is only okay if you've done something that should make the person feel guilty. I'll give you a good example. We all have friends that drive pickup trucks. Do you have a pickup truck? I don't.
I don't have one, but I know people that have them.
Yeah. Have you ever asked your friends that drive pickup trucks if they could help you move something and they say yes? That's a good use of guilt. But I call this the pickup truck theory, sort of. But the idea is that people hate saying no to people they like. So if you make a prospect feel special and good trying to get them, they're going to feel special and good getting back to you. And they're going to want to keep working with you. It's the same way that you see these pro sports teams that go out of their way to recruit a player. They'll go like, hey, we put your jersey up. Like the Celtics were trying to get Gordon Hayward, for example, a couple years ago. They literally put his number in the retired jersey banner at TD Garden. And we're like, hey, this could be you. And they tried to woo him this way because they're trying to basically, Jones him into being like, shit, I want to work here and I want to do this stuff. That's how prospecting actually should be in sales. The problem is some jerk that wrote the first cold email sent a phone script to people. And so all these people started sending phone scripts and sales emails turned into, wow, I can reach out to 100 people at once. Click, go. And that's the wrong way to approach it. And I wish that everyone that's listening to your podcast right now hears this and thinks, man, we have a blank slate. We can try and improve this one email at a time. We can try and improve this one call at a time.
Is there a fear that people are not sending enough? Is that where this is coming from? You think like there's this fear of like, I have to send out 500 emails because I'll get a 3% response rate, and there's like a fear that I can't send out just one. I need 9 follow-ups.
The outbound sales culture was set up so that it's based on activities. And if you're tracking and doing things based on activities, when they start adding email to the mix and social selling and things like that, they're now adding an activity number to those things as well. And you might want an activity number. It's okay. But the problem is they didn't change that activity number when you have more data available to personalize your email or your call. Like, activity numbers were great when you had to do 200 calls a day because you didn't know anything about your prospects. But today you have LinkedIn. You can go on a prospect's Facebook page, hit the About tab, and look at what things they like. You can see if they have a Twitter account or a blog. You can see if they have an Instagram account. You literally read and find out what things that person likes that you might like that you can mutually use to get in and start a relationship with someone.
Yeah, one of the things I saw about your approach that I think is different is you mentioned this before. You make people feel good, and your emails and your outreach that I've seen. Forgetting the value proposition stuff, which we can certainly talk about, how to talk about the benefits for you. That's kind of table stakes. But you kind of layer on this. When you see your outreach, you can't help but like smile. And I know you've done things like you've gone to offices and brought cocoa during Christmas, and you've had quartets making these songs, and you've been in front of the piano, and even the email that we're going to get to in a second that you sent to Zeus was super charming, which we're going to read in a second. But talk to me a little bit about why that's important to you, this stuff that's not so much a value proposition, but it's a feeling that you get whenever you read or see your communications.
Yeah, it sounds lame, but I'm actually really proud of my cold emails. Like, I look at them like macaroni art that I'd want my mom to put on the fridge, and I think that that's actually a good way to approach it. So many people write cold emails or do sales tactics that they never would want their friends and family to see. And I put my stuff out there like a badge of honor. If we had every rep doing that, prospects would love getting prospected because they'd feel like, man, this person really wants me. Okay, I'll respond. All right. And the other cool part is when you get on the call with these people afterward, you're laughing with them. You're smiling with them. You're not putting on this fake, hey, how's it going, sales voice. You're not doing that. You're being yourself because you were yourself when you're doing this stuff. The way I look at it is if you're prospecting today, and I'm actually kind of really trying to push this and talk about this a lot more this year, if you approach prospecting like you're at an ad agency in a room trying to come up with a Super Bowl ad, but you're doing it for one prospect at a time, and the amount of money you bring in for each account is worth it, you're in a good place. And that's how I think about it sometimes. I'll have a list of 30 accounts that I try and prospect. And keep in mind, I'm doing marketing stuff a lot more at LeadIQ, so my prospecting volume has gone down a lot. But 2 or 3 years ago when I was here, I basically would look and say, look, if I can break into these 15 or 20 accounts, they're going to be big for us because I'll then be able to go into this company's competitor and this company's competitor and go do that stuff. And I'd have this whole map out of accounts that I wanted to go after. Instead of just being like, oh, I'm going to go write an email and make a call and hope they respond, I actually just went and sat down and said, how do I break into all these accounts? And I think that that's the first step. It's not crap. I got to make calls. I got to hit my email number today. It's really about thinking through, how do I make this person know that I'm choosing them because I want them? I'm the GM and I want this person to sign on my team.
So this is not Tinder. This is more
right.
Okay, so let's actually I want to talk to you about your process. So let's just take an example here so it's tangible. So this sounds like step one is I'm not going to go swiping through Tinder 50 different profiles. I'm going to pick the 5 or 6 or 10 people that I really think look interesting and that I think can mutually benefit from what I'm offering. And you have this list of accounts, and then maybe you look for different types of people. Now I want to read an email that you wrote that I thought was pure brilliant on many levels.
Thank you.
As is all of
By the way, I do this thing called Rate My Pitch at LeadIQ where we look at cold emails and give them a grade. I actually would give this email a B, and I'll tell you why afterward. But read the email. It's a good one, though. I like it.
Okay, so
he's good.
It doesn't even matter what the company does. You can certainly look it up if you want to. But the name of the company is called Zeus. It's ZUSS. And I'm just going to read this email because I thought it was pretty great. The subject line was the power of Zeus. So here we go. Hey guys, love your company's name. If I were making sales calls for you guys, I would consider adding an echo every time I say the word Zeus or the name Zeus. And then he has in quotes underneath, hey Steve, just calling from Zeus. Zeus. And he has the font going from big to small to sort of show that there's an echo happening in the mail. Now, I'm reading this and I'm like, how do you not automatically smile when you read that? Then he kind of goes into how he might be able to help in a very sort of subtle way, using, I think, a little humility. So, hey, I was just curious if you guys wanted to play around with LeadIQ. LeadIQ helps teams find lead data faster and easily import it from LinkedIn to a CSV file or Salesforce. Up for swapping some witty banter and maybe trying it out. What are your thoughts, Ryan? So, Ryan, go ahead. I know you gave it a B, but...
Yeah, so the only reason I give this email a B and why it's not an A is because someone actually commented on this. It needs a better transition from Zeus to LeadIQ. I probably should have added something there, like tying sales calls into the mix or something. But at the time I was just writing an email. This wasn't really a targeted thing. I just literally was just jamming around and prospecting one afternoon. And I heard Zeus, and the first thing I thought of was Zeus. Like, I'm like, oh man, that's like a really cool name for a company. So I think what you're saying though is like, think of it from this perspective. There's no gimmick, there's no video, there's no image. The reason I really like this cold email though is because a lot of the examples I show are the unorthodox ones with video or with audio or with a picture or a GIF or something. And this one is just straight up text. It's showing that like you can go and think of something that's creative and fun with the prospect. The other cool part is if you're confident in the way that you approach your cold email, like you just make a joke or act human or shows a piece of your personality, it actually exudes confidence too. And this is something I learned from marketing. I worked at a healthcare startup for a year, and one of the things I learned is I A/B tested a landing page where I had a page where people basically fill out a form, and at the bottom I had a "We won't spam you," and I did another version of the landing page where I didn't have that at all. And the page that didn't have it was actually higher, and it's because I made people think about getting spammed. It's the same thing with the fun prospecting email. If you go and make it all tightened up and businessy, it's going to be like, oh, this isn't going to be a good experience. But when someone gets an email from me, I want them to be like, wow, even if I don't like this product and it doesn't make sense, they ended up turning into a customer, by the way. But even if I don't like this product and it doesn't make sense, why don't I talk to this guy anyway, because he seems likable. He seems like he's going to help me escape from my day job for a couple minutes. One thing that no one ever talks about is average person changes a job once every 17 months. That means the first 6 months, I say this all the time if people hear it, but the first 6 months they're spending their time actually new at the company, kind of shy, figuring stuff out. Next 6 months, they're really a change agent. They can pick what vendors you pick. They have power. Last 6 months, they're bored. They've got one foot out the door. If you're on a Mac, you're staring at the top right of your screen, waiting for 5 o'clock to hit. And if you're on a PC, you're staring down at the bottom right. And if you can prove that you're a fun person to work with and actually worth a damn, they're going to actually interrupt their day and talk to you. And that's the neat part about this that I love. I don't know if you saw I recorded a video with Michael, the guy I emailed him this, and talked about LeadIQ for a little while. I forgot that I wrote this email to Michael, and that's how they became a customer, because I just have so many versions. I have so many stories like this of emails that I've written that I did something that was entertaining and made the prospect feel good and showed specialization and still wrinkled back and connected with the human being on a human level.
So something happens when we leave our homes, right? We're home watching Netflix, we're being entertained, and then we go to business, and all of a sudden we put on this business hat and we're talking very corporate. It's almost like our personalities have been beaten out of us. I did a lecture at college, and it was amazing that even in college now, in the business school, they've beaten out the personality, and they're talking very
it's terrible.
Up. So how do you go about, let's just call through your process. To the extent that you can kind of teach people, how do I break out of this rut, and what are some tools that I can use? Just take me through your process. So you have an account like Zeus, and walk me through like what you do and how you sort of loosen up, and how if I wanted to take a baby step toward doing this, maybe not with the big production values of hiring a quartet band and playing the piano, but if I wanted to kind of baby step into this and take a small step, walk me through your process and how we might be able to take a step towards that.
Yeah, so I'll tell you the non-scalable, well, not scalable, but I'll tell you one way, and then I'll tell you one way to scale it. So the first way that I usually approach this is I find an account and I look for the person that might be the right buyer. if I look online and can't find anything about this person, by the way, my apologies if you sell into a space where your prospects aren't online. It's a little harder to do this if they're not. But if I can't find anything about a prospect online, and even if they're the right buyer, I don't email that person. I usually will, or I don't call that person. I usually actually will switch to a different person at the company where I can find something. Michael had actually posted on LinkedIn that he went to conferences and would wear crazy suits. And we actually do that too. That would have been my next email to him if I didn't do that. But you notice in the email, I wrote it to more than one person. Michael wasn't at the time the right decision maker. It was the other guy on the email. But Michael was the person I CC'd because I knew Michael would resonate with a silly email, because this is a guy that wears literally crazy like 90s suits to conferences and has crazy patterns on them. So I researched him. I saw that he had posted a picture of the conference with him in a crazy suit. That tells me he's a fun guy. He's got personality. He's a guy that would appreciate something if I was a little bit sillier in my outreach. And so seeing that triggered me to be like, oh, I'm just going to come up with something. The Zeus thing, I just saw the company name and thought Zeus. And then I wrote my email to him. I hand wrote it. I just wrote it and hit send. The process, though, is really all about researching your prospect. So like, if you reach out to someone and they're really, really corporate-y in the way that they talk about themselves, and they don't really seem to have some appreciation for creativity or being cute, don't be cute with the prospect. But if you see someone at the end of the day that is someone that probably has a lot of personality, is interesting, you see some things about them, you can do stuff about it. Another example that I like to talk about, a guy on my team, Drew, was working with, he was reaching out to Thomson Reuters, and there's a company, Robert Betty, who's a director of sales there, is a Detroit Lions fan. And Drew loved, at the time in his fantasy team, he had a bunch of Detroit Lions on his roster. He literally sent a screenshot to Rob about his fantasy team. He didn't send an email saying, hey, we can change your sales team and make things a lot more efficient. He led with that and said, I saw you're a Lions fan. I'm loving Theo Riddick right now in Stafford. I've got them both. Big fans. Like, he used that to break in. So I think the most important part of this process is researching. Rob might have not been the right buyer, but if you get a champion internally, when you become buddies with Rob, it's easier for you. Rob ended up being the right decision maker, by the way. But when you get these decision makers or these people that you're reaching out to, it's more important to have a connection with someone. The other thing is, don't fake it. Like, I hate that. I see sales reps that try and fake stuff that don't know what they're talking about. And you can't fake it. There's kind of, sorry, this is a philosophical thing, but I'm ranting a little bit, but there's kind of 3 ways that you can connect with people. There's 3 stages of conversation. The first stage is small talk, which is kind of not as great of a connection, but you can still do it. Like, you can talk about stuff like, hey, it's raining today. How about that Boston Marathon? Wow, it's crazy. You know, like, Boston Marathon just happened, so I was thinking of that. But you could talk about that small talk stuff. Stage 2 is common interest. And most of us in our life have friends that we've made from common interest. So if you're researching for someone, look for triggers like common interest. It might even be better to go after an individual contributor at a company that you share common interest with first before you go to the decision maker, because that person will give you insight and help you out on some stuff.
Yeah, I think one of the things you talked about that's really interesting is this idea of, like, so a lot of people are going to hear this and they're going to do like a fake connecting thing. You know, so you like this football thing and I like football too, or I read this article and I really loved it. Like, we see all these emails that are like that.
Don't fake stuff. Yeah, like, only pick things that you actually share mutual interest with that person. If you're running dry, the fallback is to talk about the company. So like Michael, for example, I can't remember if he's from Australia or England. I feel really bad because I think Zeus actually is based out in Australia originally. But Michael actually didn't really have a whole lot about things that he was interested in. I couldn't find anything about him. But I did see the picture of him in a suit. So I was like, I'll do something silly that is focused on the company instead, because I can't find something about Michael. And the best prospectors that do this philosophy, you get better if you can get it down to 10 minutes. If you can get one email out or one call where you're doing this personalization every 10 minutes, you're going to end up, I recommend doing email because it's a little bit easier, and then you can call about the email you sent. That's another thing we can go into too. But
yeah, so walk me through that. You'd send one of these emails. If that person didn't respond or there wasn't anything coming back, would you send another one of these types of emails? Would you say, just bumping this, I don't think you would do this, but you wouldn't say like, just bumping this to the top of your inbox, or this
Right. So what I usually do is I actually will send something and then I'll ask for feedback on what I sent. That's kind of if you do the personalization enough, It depends how personalized I got in my first email, which I get pretty personal usually. If I'm doing something and I'm mentioning that the Zeus workforce thing and they don't reply, my next email, I'm making fun of myself. I'm like, dude, did I just look like a jackass with the Zeus thing? Did you guys not hear how I said it the right way?
And you have this thing that you do too, where you attach a little picture of yourself, kind of tearing up a little bit. Sometimes I've seen you.
I've actually done. When I worked at Dine in like 2009, I was sending cold emails and people wouldn't write me back. I used to send pictures of myself laying on the floor, looking really devastated. I'd hear back from like 60 or 70% of people when I did this. Like they would write back and just be like, all right, you got me. And these are IT guys that hiss at light and don't want to talk to you. You know what I mean?
So self-deprecating humor is pretty safe.
Yeah, well, I actually think in the IT space it works really well because these are people that I used to sit next to them at Dine all the time. These are people that get emails from sales reps and just shit all over the sales rep. So if you're making fun of yourself, it's hard for them to crap on you if you're aware of it and making fun of yourself. So if you're insecure and you're not comfortable making fun of yourself and having fun and dealing with it, I think it might not be you might be in the wrong space. You probably shouldn't be doing sales. Most salespeople I meet are some of the best and most charismatic people in the world. They laugh, they love to have fun, and your prospects want that too. Yeah, and that's an important aspect of it.
People don't lose their sense of humor when they come to work. I think is the sort of key takeaway there. And then you mentioned you'd also call as well.
Yeah. So what I'll do is what I used to do is I'd do an email, and then if they opened my email but didn't respond, I'd actually call them, and I'd instead of saying, "Hey, it's Ryan from Lead IQ. Do you have 2 minutes to talk?" I'd say, "Hey, it's Ryan from Lead IQ. I'm the guy that just sent you this," and I'll talk about the thing I just sent them. And the cool part is, if your thing that you sent is abstract enough, they're going to already remember you, or they're going to say, "I didn't read your email yet. I didn't see it. I don't know what you're talking about." They'll say something like that. The thing is, I'm not leading and saying, "Hey, this is a pitch." I'm saying, "I like your company. I've been wanting to work with you guys for a long time. That's why I wrote this email to you. I'm choosing you." That's basically what I'm saying. The way I don't say that, but I'm wording it that way. And what ends up happening is you're able to use the phone to promote the thing that you did. You're able to use your follow-up to promote the thing that you did. You can go on social and tag the person and promote the thing that you did. The idea is that if you do something abstract enough and creative enough for the first touch point, you use the other stuff to promote the one thing that you're trying to drive them to. And if it doesn't work, the other cool part is if you are using a cadence or sequence tool, some of this stuff could actually be automated a little bit. Step 4 or 5 can be not I'm just bumping this to the top of your inbox, but I sent you a video, I wrote you that email, didn't hear back. Is it we want to help you guys with this? Is this just not your style? You can just ask stuff and get feedback. The thing that's interesting is they know it's a prospecting email. The people you're prospecting know this stuff. So take advantage of using these other platforms to get feedback on it. I'll tell you another example. I once made a video that I sent to Sprout Social. I remember the company very distinctly. And in the video, I made it with one of my reps that was trying to break in. For me, I was managing a BDR team for a little while here. I would go and make something with them, and we'd send it together. We'd group sell. And by the way, that's a pretty cool technique too. If you have a manager, group selling's fun because it becomes work with our team. It's a team. Not hey, help me get commission. You know what I mean? It looks better sometimes when you do that stuff. We made a video once for Sprout Social. I don't remember what the video content was, but we didn't hear back from the buyer that we were trying to target. So instead of emailing her over and over again saying, "Hey, feature ABC, can we talk? Hey, feature ABC, can we talk?" and calling and be like, "Hey, did you get my email?" And we were getting sent to voicemail. I actually took the video that I sent and I tweeted it at the person and the company. And I said, "Made this just for Sprout Social." Guess what happens? The social media manager that's running the Sprout Social account is going to retweet that page to all their followers. All these people are going to like and comment, and that person that's tagged, that's also the prospect, is going to get an alert on their phone every time that someone is liking or commenting on the video. Guess what happens after that happens? You get an email back that says, "Sorry, I didn't get back to this. I have been busy." You basically use social amplification to promote and do things for you. And that's an example of making your first tactic so good that it makes it so that the other stuff is just promoting your first tactic.
So I want to talk about this. You said a couple things that are interesting. So I had a client that I worked with. They sent something in the mail, direct mail, in a green envelope. Yep. And it had a recipe to a chocolate chip cookie because they saw that they liked chocolate chip cookies. this person liked it so much that they retweeted the actual letter and the email.
They
So
took
I
a
think-
picture of it?
Yeah.
I love that.
So I think what
I
you're
love
talking
that.
about is outreach that's so, like that Seth Godin would say, remarkable that people want to actually share it. But even
Yeah.
if they don't share it, I think what you said is super interesting and something that I really didn't think about too much until what you just said it, which is if I send this remarkable thing, and I do a lot with direct mail. I send it in a green envelope with like a funny picture of a koala bear, whatever the thing is. So like a long letter. The follow-up cold call, instead of saying what a traditional person would be, which is, hi, this is Josh with Sales DNA, was hoping to talk to you for a minute. Do you have a couple minutes? Instead of that, which is what everyone sounds like, you could say, my name is Josh. I'm the one that sent you the ugly green envelope. And then you just shut up. And they either say, like, I got it or didn't get it. And then either way, you kind of have this sort of way in. I think that was kind of what you were getting at there.
You're exactly speaking it. I'll tell you a perfect story that I think you'll like too. So, for people that don't know, I talk a lot about the movie Point Break. The 1994 version, obviously, not the remake. This past summer, it was a slow month. It was in July, and I wanted to do an experiment where I was like, I'm just going to go on Amazon and order a bunch of shit for prospects and mail it to them, and I'm not going to give them a note. I'm not going to explain anything. I'm just going to mail them this. So the problem for this one is I didn't do an actual study on it. I'm now working on a study on direct mail, by the way, for prospecting. So there'll be something on the Lead IQ blog about that eventually. But we went and we went and found a bunch of prospects, and I mailed them copies of Point Break on Blu-ray. Just Amazon, it's like $6. And what I did is whenever I got an alert that it got delivered, I would email and call the person, and instead of saying, hey, blah, 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 from Lead IQ, I want to talk to you about blah, blah, blah. All I did is I wrote a cold email that said, hey, prospect first name, I sent you a package in the mail. It's the greatest movie of all time. Did you get it? I want to make sure that you got our package. What are your thoughts? And you know how many people wrote me back or called me and said, a lot of them were calls too. And all I did was, hey, it's Ryan from Lead IQ. Wanted to see if you got my package. You know how many people said, I was wondering where that came from. It was driving me nuts. Why did I get a copy of Point Break in the mail? And the neat part is I actually made the content about Point Break. So like,
that's what I was going to ask you about. Like, did you tie it in somehow? Because it seems a little random.
Yeah, so like I didn't talk too much about Lead IQ. All I would say is like, hey, I sent you a package in the mail. It's the greatest movie of all time. Did you get it? That baits them to go down to the mailroom and look for the package, by the way. Because if you say, hey, I sent you a copy of Point Break on DVD, can we get some time to talk? It's like, no, it doesn't make any sense. But if you say, I sent you the greatest movie of all time, it should be in your mailroom, did you get it? And people will write back and say, yeah, I got it. But in the email, I also write, we want to talk to you guys about prospecting, but I also want to talk to you about Point Break and what you think of the movie. And the interesting part is, if you're the reason I like Point Break is if you're an art snob, it's over the top enough where you think I'm kidding. And if you're an action guy that likes action movies and stuff, you probably think Point Break's awesome. So it's like a good universal movie that you can like either make fun of or like, because there's enough stuff that's over the top enough. Like there's a scene where they literally jump out of a plane without a parachute. It's like, come on, what are you doing?
Right.
But this is kind of the idea: is you wrap your whole cadence or sequence around the thing that you did, and you make your first thing so thoughtful that you're going all out on it. And the other cool part is, if you do it and it fails, which it will, 50% of the time they won't get back to you. It's just how it is. Even if you fail, you can just do something else and do it again, and it'll eventually work. People have amnesia. Prospects have amnesia, and they don't remember things. They forget stuff.
So I think the mistake that I see a lot of people making with this is I work with a lot of people that do this coffee thing. They'll send like a $5, Starbucks card. This is kind of like phoning it in. It's like, I know I have to send something. Here's a $5 coffee cup. Will you talk to me? I think talk a little bit about that, because this can also be done, just like we were talking about being authentic in the observation, this can also be done in a way that doesn't really work as effectively. And again, it's not the tactic, it's how you're executing it. And so talk a little bit about this kind of fakeness where I see like, hey, I sent you coffee, let's talk. Rather than something that's a little bit more authentic and real, because I think there's a difference there.
There's enough out there where you can pair stuff up. Jeremy Levy on my team, for example, he works at Lead IQ. He's not actually on my team. He's his own guy. But Jeremy saw a prospect like The Office, the TV show The Office. He didn't send a DVD of The Office. He got a Dwight Schrute mug and sent it to him. And that person's going to see that mug every day and think of Lead IQ. Totally. And now he's his follow up is, hey, I sent you a package in the mail. Did you get it? What'd you think? The cool part about this whole thing, if you're doing sending, is you can pair up stuff with personal interest. Go see if you can find your prospect online on Facebook. Go to the about page. You can see a lot of people they keep what pages they like public. So you can see what bands they like, what movies. Go get them a t-shirt of their favorite band. They'll be pumped. If you're going out of your way to like something on Facebook, you probably really like something. Because I don't go and like things on Facebook that I don't really care about. I only like things that I like. You can probably go on my Facebook right now. You'd probably see that I like Wayne's World and Green Day and I'm just thinking of 90s things sort of. But you can go look at what pages I like and personalize some prospecting for me. And guess what? If you do that, I'm going to totally write you back because you're making me feel special. Totally. You're making me feel like you're giving me the red carpet circuit. And when you do your tactic, don't be like, I saw that you like this, because that's creepy too. Just be like, I like The Office. Figured you're a guy that likes The Office. That's kind of the way it works. Totally. And it's how connections happen with us. Think of your friends you made in college or high school. I always tell this story. I sat in sophomore year of high school. I sat next to this guy named Josh Payne. He was right to the right of me all year. It was our first period in high school was also our homeroom, so that's where you checked in for attendance. And we sat next to each other for 3 months and didn't really talk to each other that much. And one day we got a test score back, and I got a good grade, and I yelled out, "The day is mine," in a Sean Connery voice from the SNL skit they did with Celebrity Jeopardy. And he was he said another quote from it. Right there, we kicked off a friendship. Guy was in my wedding party last year when I got married. Think of it from this perspective. Common interest is the common link that makes us all get along. And if you can find some sort of common interest with someone, it's going to be a lot easier for you because you're going to be like, oh, they're like me. They like the same things. Sometimes you're going to have prospects that just don't fit, that don't make sense. That means it's probably not the right person to go after that company for you to get in at least. Use someone else's social capital at the company to get in first.
And I would imagine, too, this approach actually feels better not only for the prospect, but for the SDR. I mean, it could be such a monotonous job, and I know there's a lot of burnout, and part of me thinks that there's a lot of burnout because of the way SDRs are currently doing the job and are being managed. But I would imagine an approach like this, where you come in every day and you have a little bit more creative approach, hey, here's your budget for stuff that you want to send, and this approach, and let's see what you can come up with. It also makes the SDR a little more autonomous. Rather than picking out the Yesware or the outreach template, and I love these tools, no slam against the tools, but picking out, hey, SDR, as creative as you're going to be, you're going to select one of these 6 templates, and you're going to fill out these 5 words. I think what you're proposing is we start with a blank slate, and the idea is to start a conversation. How might you do that using the plethora of ways in which you can find out about people today?
Yeah, I mean, today there's email, there's phone, there's social, there's direct mail. I'll tell you another idea that I'm playing around with that we've had some luck with. We just closed 2 accounts doing this last year. It took about 6 months for them to close, actually. Our sales cycle was long on it. We had, Cole's not working with us anymore, but we had a guy, our director of sales, Cole Fox, that was working here. And I came up with this idea. Cole wanted to go to New York and drop off bagels at people's offices that were prospects. Just come in and drop off bagels, show up. Really cool idea. So I told Cole, I'm like, hey, if we're going to email people about dropping off bagels at their office rather than, because you can't just show up sometimes. You have to have an insider in there to do that stuff if you're going to do that. A lot of places don't allow soliciting and stuff. Cole and I basically made an email campaign with one of our BDRs where we emailed people asking if we could swing by and drop off bagels. Here's the cool part we did. Drew, the guy that sent the bagel stuff with Cole, actually, we took the list of people we built with LeadIQ and dumped them into a social media ad with the list of the same people we prospected. Because if you use Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or even Google, you can upload a CSV of people that you have signed up or put in an email address, and you can target people based on email address for ads. This is like next.
I'm not tracking on this. This is so you have the person's email address. You upload it to. I understand that you can upload accounts to LeadIQ and it comes back with the email addresses and phone numbers.
Yeah, so I'll rewalk. I'll say it a little slower. So you can basically take a list of prospects that you have, export it, run a report in Salesforce, and export it from SalesLoft, Yesware, Outreach, whatever tool you're using. Take that list and you can upload it into Facebook, put in a credit card, and literally run ads about the email that you sent.
I had no idea.
Yeah, you could. It's crazy.
That's not a lookalike audience. You mean you're running ads for those specific people?
it will only show ads to people that match your prospect list. And it's very, very tiny. You need a large quantity for it to work. But Cole and Drew, when they did this campaign together, they reached out to like over 4,000 people that were doing sales, VPs of sales in the New York area. Over the course of 2 months, the list was big enough where we matched on like 30 or 40% of them. And we ended up having people, instead of doing an ad that's like, lead IQ, lead IQ, lead IQ, the ad was, we want to bring bagels to your office. And it's on their news feed. They click, takes them to a landing page, and on the landing page is a video of Cole saying, hey, I want to bring bagels to your office. Pick a time on my calendar right here, and we'll come to your office and drop off bagels and talk about prospecting. He ended up getting 2 customers from it. Bagels ended up anyone that booked, the bagels ended up costing us, I think the whole thing was like $80 for the bagels for people that booked. 2 of them closed. Both those accounts are paying us at least $600 a month. So to put the effort in perspective for a second, it's super scalable. You can just keep doing this tactic in different cities.
Well, I think the point here too is that when we get away from templates, this is what happens, right? Whether it's a bagel thing or some other thing, when you start to give people that are in their 20s or 30s that are typically SDRs the ability to say it's not about the tactics. We want to have the end goal of starting conversations. Here's some things that some people have done, and you just open that up. I would imagine you're going to start thinking. People are very creative.
We have this problem in sales I call it the monkey see, monkey do effect, and I did it. When I worked at Dine, I was the first BDR there. First thing I did is I looked at what the sales team was doing for outbound, and I replicated it. And you know what happened? I didn't get meetings. I was doing terrible. Kyle York, the chief revenue officer at Dine, now he's the GM of operations for Oracle's cloud division. Kyle literally sat me down in a room. I thought I was going to get fired. And he sat me down and said, listen, Ryan. He did the opposite. He said, listen, Ryan, I hired you to be you. I didn't hire you to be Chris or Josh or Steve. Like, he didn't say it. He said, I hired you to be you. Go out there. There are no rules. Do whatever you can to get people in. And it opened up my world. It's one of the most important conversations in my life that I didn't even realize. And that's when I just realized, man, I should really just start doing crazy stuff with prospecting all the time because it's my favorite part of the job. And if I get this process down really well, I'll be able to do, I can hit up 20 or 30 people a day and still have some pretty quality outreach on this stuff. I recommend if you're listening to this as a takeaway, do the 10-minute game. That's what I call it. You have 10 minutes to find a prospect, read about them, and craft a cold email or do a cold call and come up with a tactic that matches up with that prospect. And if you do that, you're going to hit 6 people an hour. You're going to hit 30 for the whole day if you don't have meetings during the day. And at the end of the day, you're going to hear back from 30 or 40% of them.
Ryan, you know what would be awesome, dude, if we could do if you're up to it. It would be great if we jumped on. And I'm like, okay, Ryan, you got 10 minutes. And we pick one of your prospects and we kind of watch you work. We kind of like see like you kind of doing it.
I actually think this is a very cool idea. I think we should. I was thinking about doing like a live stream of me working in prospecting.
Yes. It would be awesome. Just kind of over the shoulder. You're not even saying anything. You're just kind of doing it, and people are just watching. It's almost like Bob. What was that guy? That painter, Bob Ross, and PBS.
Yeah. Just, like, right here, we're going to paint this potion.
Right. He wasn't telling you how to paint necessarily, but you were learning painting by watching him do the little bit of color. So that'd be
that's a really good idea. We should do that. The other thing too, I was going to say that makes it a little bit scalable. If you're listening to this and you want to try and get your SDR managers to buy in and want to do this stuff, or your VP of sales. I recommend doing the campaign-based stuff too. And what that is basically, you still do the personalization, but you do the same tactic over and over again with personalization. So like Point Break, for example, when I did that, I sent DVDs to people. I didn't just do it for one person. I sat down for an hour and did it for 20 prospects. And what it did is it made it easier for me to orchestrate and do this customized action over and over again. If I had done the Point Break thing, then did something else, then came back and did the Point Break thing again, my flow's all messed up and I'm not hitting enough people that day.
Kind of task switching.
Yeah, you basically just coordinate and try one thing, spend a couple $100 on something. The cool part is if you're listening to this and you're working inside sales, you probably have a product that's more than that per month.
Totally. If someone wants to find out, learn more about this Lead IQ, let's go ahead and plug Lead IQ because it's the new kid. It's the new kid on the block. And if you guys are using ZoomInfo or Data.com, you might want to take a look at this Lead IQ. I was blown away by the trial. I'm going to start recommending it to my clients. I'm probably going to use it as well. I saw a really 100 credit promo that was recent. I might not be available when you see this demo, but Ryan, tell us a little bit about.
Yeah, it's always going to be available for people right now if you do act quickly. But the big thing for Lead IQ is this: when you prospect and you want to do these cool prospecting tactics, the problem is they take a lot of time. The thing that really stinks though is the average sales rep spends 6.1 hours a week doing data entry, meaning they have to go find the prospect online. They have to, you know what happens right now is people get an account, they go look in their database tool that they have, they go find the contact, then they just go online and go look for the person. They'll go to their LinkedIn. You start adding all these steps up, and then you got to put the record into Salesforce and then put it into Outreach or SalesLoft or Yesware, whatever you're using. Those steps end up adding up a lot and ends up being 6.5 hours a week that reps are spending on that. We flip that whole process upside down. Research your lead, find them online first, hit a button, we go find all the contact info. We'll suck it into your different sales tools, and you're ready to go. You can go do the things we're talking about in this podcast.
I want to ask you a question about this because a lot of the people that I work with as customers do exactly that process, and the problem they have is they go into a tool like Zoom, and then they have to go into Salesforce and see that it's already in there, and they don't want to replicate the data. So are you saying that your tool works a different way? Like, let's say that lead is already in Salesforce, or there's some version of it. How does that work?
Yeah, so if you have first name, last name, and company name, we match it across your entire Salesforce database, and we'll tell you if it's an existing lead, existing contact, existing op, account, etc. We match it up in Salesforce, and if they're in Salesforce, you'll see a little emblem in our extension that will say, hey, this person's in Salesforce. Right there, you know to go check it out first before you reach out. We realize that people do a ton of Salesforce lookups every day. This feature was actually invented by one of our SDRs. Jim, who's now running our support team, was prospecting people and he was getting annoyed having to go check up in Salesforce all the time whether these people were in or not. So he suggested this idea and we built it, and there are literally teams that just buy us for that, which is crazy.
So if there's an open app or something like that, or something's in play, I could see it pretty quickly.
Yeah, you could literally open up a LinkedIn profile, pop open an extension, and see who's being worked already. You could you can go to a team page, look at a blog post, right-click, insert the person into the Lead IQ extension. It'll tell you if they're in Salesforce or not. You can just use it really quick without having to go do that manual copy and paste of the prospect's name and see if they come search results.
And it also saw some other interesting feature that I thought was interesting, and I'm going to botch this, but I can upload company, first name, last name, or maybe URL, and it will automatically append a sheet of leads that way as well.
Yeah, so we actually built this for myself. I was going to Dreamforce a couple years ago, and I wanted to be able to go prospect people before going to Dreamforce. To set up meetings, I found a list of people that were attending parties at Dreamforce. I grabbed first name, last name, and company name, and I asked the dev team if I could upload this as a CSV and get contact information. They're like, sure, we can do the same process. So they actually did that and built it, and then we opened it up to customers. So you can do the same thing. I will note the match rate on the CSV upload, it's not as high as having a prospect online because sometimes the data that they have on stuff is not as clear, but it's pretty good. It's like you'll get 40 or 50% of your list filled out with emails and phone numbers and stuff.
Totally. And Lead IQ phone numbers as well?
Yeah, so the thing we did that's a little different, we actually get cell phone numbers because we were prospecting with desk phones. We did desk phones for a little while, and we realized that you could dodge gatekeepers if you just call cell phones. And the other trend that's happening is companies are moving away from using phone providers like PBX systems. So we get cell phones. That's our big thing. There's all kinds of public records out there that show how to get someone's cell phone number, whether you've registered a domain before, maybe you've gotten a parking ticket. All that stuff's out there in the public with your cell phone data. So Lead IQ automates that part and does a bunch of crazy stuff to get phone numbers too. And we also have a free version of our product that people can sync up their inbox. Full disclosure, we grab your signature data from your emails and add that to our database too. And that's one of the ways we get phone numbers as well.
Awesome. Ryan, you have been awesome. You lived up to the billing, my friend. This was a bunch of fun. I loved it, and I will continue to follow you. And for everyone out there who wants to learn more about Ryan, how do people learn, get on your radar, follow you, do all that stuff? Where can they find you?
I think the best thing to do is follow me on LinkedIn. But I recommend that you go check out the Lead IQ blog because I pretty much will put out a piece of prospecting content once a week. I usually have one or two things that I'm working on. Today, I'm actually going to record. I have 187 LinkedIn connection requests that I haven't accepted. I'm going to record it and see how many automated spam messages I get and then write a blog post about it.
I feel privileged that I was accepted. I feel honored that I got through.
I took a long time, actually, because I have to look at these people and vet them out because I get a lot of people that just spam ad me to sell me and stuff, so I got to be careful. By the way, if you add someone on LinkedIn, last tip, don't go pitch them right away. Build a relationship with them first.
What does that mean? People always say that. What does that mean? Like, build a relationship with them. What does that mean? What does that look like?
That means look at some things they've posted and talk to them about it. Have back and forth dialogue about things that aren't just you trying to get their business. Or, like, I don't go up to a bar and say, hey, and go to a girl and say, I'm married now, but, like, I don't go up to a bar and say, hey, can I have your phone number? I would never do that. I'd talk to someone first. It's the same thing. If you're going up to someone on LinkedIn and you're sending them a message, hey, blah, blah, thanks for connecting with me. I wanted to see if you wanted to buy product XYZ. We can help you with XYZ. What do you think? You're going to turn them off and they're not going to want to talk to you. But you say, hey, I wanted to add you because you guys are doing crazy things at your company. It's insane. I saw that you did this. That's cool. Were you part of that? Is that one of your projects? Talk to them about what they do for work. People like talking about themselves.
Yeah, and if you're not genuinely curious about it and you're just doing it to do it, then don't do it. I think we talked about earlier.
If you add people to your Rolodex that you're doing this stuff for, do it because you're sincerely interested. I remember 2009 or something, I added the original founder of Spotify onto LinkedIn. And now he's like a big startup incubator guy. And I literally just jam around ideas with him over LinkedIn Messenger all the time about startups. We ended up getting Spotify as a customer. We didn't have to do any work because we had a relationship with the guy first. So focus on relationships first with everybody and you're going to be better. I
think it's something you said, Ryan. I'm going to quote you as we wrap up here. And I think this was a wonderful quote. And I actually posted it. I had it on my wall and I still have it next to me over here. How do I show I care about this person, period. And I think that kind of sums up, really, in a sentence, it's kind of as simple as that, like, really care.
Yeah, and what you're doing can be noble. Work at a company where you can do something noble and believe in the mission. When I worked at Dine, I knew that if we kept, I'm sorry, I know we're trying to wrap up, but when I worked at Dine, I knew that at the end, we were going to help these companies keep their websites up, and all my friends and family were going to be able to go on Netflix and watch a TV show because our company was part of keeping that website up. When there was a storm and you want to go check, weather website, and we're the ones that are keeping the website up that know people, hey, there's a tornado company. It felt good doing that stuff. Think of a way to make whatever you're selling noble so that you're really having an impact for people.
Get on Lead IQ. Check out Ryan's PSAs also if you want to laugh. He's in the black and white wearing a tux. That's all I'll say. Ryan, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Josh. I really appreciate it.
Take care, man.